Hello, mate! How's everything? I'm so blessed to be with you today through my YouTube channel. By the way, this is my first video and it is intended for learning. Just a disclaimer, I do not own any information from the presentations I created and they belong to the rightful owners. For today's video, I am going to present the English curriculum reform in the Philippines, issues and challenges from a 21st century learning perspective. But before we get excited, let us have first the objectives. Letter A. Recall the English language reform in the Philippines and its impact to 21st century learning. Letter B. Reflect on the issues and challenges of English curriculum in a 21st century perspective. And letter C. Demonstrate understanding of the topic through participation during discussion. So, let's fall in folds. Current progression in the Philippines has caused the government to propel for a new basic education curriculum. This progression has also caused changes. And what are those changes? Together with the changes is the adoption of Language Arts and Multiliteracies Curriculum, or LAMC, also known as the New English Curriculum. Next is the globalization and fast improvement in information and communication technology, or ICT, which continuously changing the perspective of our academic, professional, and personal lives. These recent developments and the need to develop ICT literate individuals have prompted the government to provide a 12-year quality basic education program for students by adding a 2-year senior high school that offers technical and vocation courses. However, this education reform should not only focus on preparing students for competitive employment and entrepreneurship, narrowing development gaps, addressing the crowded curriculum, and integrating ICT, but also with transforming them into socially critical and productive citizens and equipping them with skills necessary for resisting the exploitative and oppressive features of globalization that benefits only the global elite. Diba, we have noticed that there are a lot of youngsters who became a victim of exploitation and oppression because of poverty, social norms condoning them, lack of decent work opportunities for adults and adolescents, and many more. That is why the government was urged to level up for a new basic education curriculum, and that is the K-12. Since changes and developments are at their peaks, the curriculum review and enhancement of the English curriculum also took place in order to gain the lead in producing potential job candidates who have an adequate command on the English language. However, some textbook writers and classroom teachers reported that they struggle in implementing the K-12 English curriculum for various reasons. So we have here the issues and factors. Let's have first the issues. The issues that they have found out in implementing the curriculum are the following. Number 1, they were confused on replanning their lessons due to the changes in the curriculum. The second one, in textbook writing, some authors reported difficulties in aligning the suggested competencies per week into one consolidated and unified lesson. And for the factors affecting the issue, we have the lack of clarity and specificity of the curriculum, and the second one is the overall wellness of learners. Before we continue, let's check your knowledge about the history of Philippine language. There are 3 questions and you have to answer them in 15 seconds only. Timer starts now. Thank you for responding to the questions. Let's check if your answers are correct. Philippines has more than 100 languages according to Galang in 2000. Before English language conquered the Philippines, no language was spoken by majority of the Filipinos and none was a good choice as the national language according to Kirkpatrick in 2010. Thus, English was chosen as a medium of instruction and a dominant language of government, media, and business, according to McFarland in 2008. English influence was further strengthened by globalization as it compels the Philippine government and businesses to adopt English as a language of trade. As a result, the government adopted policies to ensure that Filipino students develop adequate proficiency in the English language. Let's proceed to the K-12 English curriculum in the Philippines. The K-12 English curriculum, also known as the Language Arts and Multiliteracies Curriculum or LAMC, is anchored on the belief that language, thinking, and learning are interrelated and that language is the foundation of all human relations. Its overarching goal is to develop communicatively competent and multiliterate learners who are competitive in this global economy. Compared to previous English curricula, the LAMC is decongested because students no longer cram the minimum learning competencies and the standards in 10 years. Rather, they are covered in 12 years. This curriculum also introduced some pedagogical innovations. Number 1, it adopted the MTB-MLE from grades 1 to 3. The second one, the time allotment for English subjects both in elementary and junior high school levels was reduced. And the third one, the LAMC uses a different assessment scheme. This time, let us discuss the 21st century learning. The integration and spread of technology, rising consciousness on cultural diversity, and globalization have changed the old concept of learning to 21st century learning. This new concept unleashes the skills of contemporary learners, and that is the ability to collect and/or retrieve information, organize and manage information, evaluate the relevance, quality, and usefulness of information, and generate accurate information through the use of available resources. Aside from this, 21st century skills are also developed. Let's watch another video on the 21st century skills. Let's now move on to the multiliteracy pedagogy. Multiliteracy pedagogy is a teaching construct that provides the students with opportunities to access, evaluate, search, sort, gather, and read data from various multimedia and multimodal sources, making them multiliterate persons. And in order to produce multiliterate learners, it is important to incorporate 21st century literacy themes, which include civic literacy, global awareness, financial literacy, health literacy, and environmental literacy. When these were taken together, we will enable learners to acquire and utilize various skills they need to succeed in their personal and professional life. I have here the summarized 21st century teaching and learning principles. Number 1, mastery of the core subjects and 21st century themes is essential for 21st century learners. Number 2, creativity, critical thinking, and communication and collaboration are important in preparing learners for the future. And number 3, learners must be able to display a range of functional and critical thinking skills related to information, media, and technology to be effective 21st century citizens and workers. Number 4, learners must be able to develop adequate life and career skills to thrive in this globally competitive information age. Number 5, curriculum should adopt 21st century standards that focus on 21st century skills, content knowledge and expertise, developing deep understanding, building understanding across subjects, engaging learners with real-world data, tools and experts, and allowing multiple measures of mastery. And number 6, assessment schemes should strike a balance between formative and summative assessment, emphasize useful feedback on learners' performance, require a balance of technology-enhanced assessment, and enable learners to develop their portfolio that demonstrate their mastery. Let us have the SCT model. Social Cognitive Transformative Model is an ESL pedagogy that puts greater emphasis on using language in authentic social contexts, interdependence between cognitive and social aspects of language learning, and self and social transformation. This model has 17 established principles, which were used as a reference point in analyzing the alignment of the New English curriculum to language teaching and learning principles. So we have here number 1, construction. This means you are engaging learners to make meaning during language learning and use. Number 2, social cognitivism. You are considering both social and cognitive factors during language learning. For number 3, we have transformative learning. You are allowing learners to participate in their communities, perform social activities, and contribute to social and self-transformation, meaning you are allowing your learners to experience the real-world scenarios. In number 4, differentiation. It is taking into account learners' individual differences during the teaching-learning process. So dito na papasok si diversity of learners. We also have here contextualization. It is providing authentic and meaningful language experience to learners. So kasali na rin dito si localization and indigenization of materials. Number 6, we have spiral progression. Spiral progression means revisiting forms, skills, and text at increasing level of difficulty and sophistication. In spiral progression, I just want to share my sentiments that might be the same with other teachers. Diba, in face-to-face learning, there are moments that we cannot really teach all competencies required in a certain subject because we are depending on the student's pace in learning. So since hindi naturo lahat in one school year, Pagdating ng next school year and the competency left behind will be revisited with a more complex context, mahihirapan ng estudyante kasi nga wala siyang prior knowledge about it. Ngayon, dahil nahihirapan ang bata, ituturo ni teacher ang basic before niya maituro ang suggested competencies for that level. And at the end of the school year, may maiiwan na naman na competencies kasi you took time going back to the basics. And it keeps on going on and on. So, yun. We also have here number 7, interaction. It is situating language learning in the context of communication through real-life activities that require interaction among learners. So we also have here the ICT integration into the teaching learning process. Aside from that is the process orientation. So you are focusing on the skills and processes involved in language learning. We also have integration. So you are teaching the macro skills and the micro skills in an integrated way using relevant print and non-print resources. Number 11 is the integration of intercultural competence. So ano ito? This is focusing on developing learners' ability to effectively and appropriately communicate with people of other cultures. Number 12, contextualized grammar and vocabulary instruction. So this is an integration of grammar and vocabulary into authentic tasks and teaching of macro skills. For number 13, we have the form-meaning connection. So you are allowing your learners to attend to the relationships between forms and meaning. In number 14, we have multi-componential assessment. So in this principle, it is the employment of contextualized self, peer, and teacher assessment as well as traditional and alternative assessment. For number 15, we have multiliteracy. So this is helping learners to develop skills in accessing, evaluating, searching, sorting, gathering, and reading data from various multimedia and multimodal sources, as I have explained a while ago. In number 16, we have here reflective learning. So this is allowing your learners to consciously think about and analyze their learning experience. So share ko lang din about reflective learning. For those who are using the learning distance modality printed format, diba, mostly last part of the modules may space for reflective learning. So I guess this is very important that students learn how to ponder about the things they have learned from the topic. So we have here the last one, number 17, the balanced emphasis on communicative competencies. So this is equally emphasizing all aspects of communicative competence. So those are the 17 principles of the ESL. So actually, the relevant topics that I am sharing with you today is a research paper. So please allow me to share with you the methodology, the data analysis, and the findings of this study. So let's have first the methodology. The theoretical framework of this study is actually anchored on Vidovic's adaptation of Ball's policy cycle in 1994. This framework acknowledges the various contexts of influences, practice, and policy text production to fully understand policy change. So when we say context of influence, this refers to the struggles among interest groups over the construction of policy discourses. Context of policy text production articulates that texts represent policy despite their inconsistencies. And for context of practice, this emphasizes that any policy is subject to interpretation of various stakeholders. Among these three contexts, the main focus of this study was in the context of policy text production, but situating them in the context of influence and practice. So in this note, the framework was used as a tool for the analysis of the LAMC. So let's now have the data analysis. The current study used policy text analysis to examine the specificity and coherence of the new curriculum, and its alignment to 21st century learning and established language teaching and learning principles. It should be noted that the conduct of a text analysis of a curriculum document is influenced by the relevant concepts related to effective pedagogy and curriculum design. Thus, major pedagogical concepts related to Philippine K-12 curriculum and English language teaching were investigated. These include 21st century literacy, curriculum policy, and English language teaching and learning principles. After identifying these major concepts, the LAMC was examined to determine its alignment with the principles espoused by the identified pedagogical concepts. Moreover, the analysis extended to the documents that are connected to the LAMC are those from DepEd orders of the Department of Education. The last one will be the findings. Criticisms towards the English curriculum in the Philippines have grown since the implementation of BPE. In fact, discussions and suggestions have been made on how the English curriculum and English proficiency of students can be improved to make them relevant in their respective context. So, as a response to the repeated criticisms, the LAMC was introduced. In the light of this development, this paper analyzes the new English curriculum in the Philippines from a 21st century learning perspective and offers some suggestions for its future design and implementation. So the following discussion focuses on these three areas. Number one is the alignment of the new English curriculum with 21st century learning principles. Number two, its adherence to the established language teaching and learning principles. And number three is its specificity and coherence. As I have mentioned a while ago, the relevant topics that I have shared with you is actually a research paper. So I have taken those information through this reference. So that would be all for my video presentation. I hope that you have learned something new today through this YouTube channel. So please don't forget to ask God for wisdom. Use your time wisely, choose to be happy, and of course, stay safe for yourself and for others. Thank you very much for staying with me and for listening to my video presentation. God bless everyone.